Welcome to another episode of Inmate Tea with AMP, where I'm your host, April, and my co-host that is incarcerated, Pig, is on the line. We are being joined today by our guest, Derrick Harper. He is incarcerated in a North Carolina prison where he has been for the last 21 years, convicted of a double homicide. Derrick, you are claiming actual innocence in this case, and you've come on today to talk to us about it, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, we're happy to have you. How long of a sentence were you given?
Thank you for having me. I was given a life sentence. It was ran concurrent. 2 people was shot at a club, and I was charged with double homicide, but I was given life ran concurrent. It was 2 life sentences ran concurrent.
Okay. Well, walk us through what happened.
It was some guys was arguing and fighting in the club at the club one night. This guy was in the club, arguing and fighting. Some girls was fighting in the inside the club. And we came on the outside the club, and we looked up there. This guy walked past and asked me what was going on. And I was like, I don't know. It was like 6 or 7 guys beating the guy with a sticks, stumping him in the face. I was like, I'm going to make sure this ain't nobody that I grew up with from my neighborhood. So on the way up there was people started shooting and everybody started running.
So this is outside of the club at this point?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Outside the club. So people started running, and I ran, and I'm thinking the guys is, at the time I was involved in illegal activities.
Okay.
I'm thinking the guys was shooting at me. So we run and jump in the truck, and we take off. I said, okay, take me to get my gun. So we go across. My grandmother stayed like 4 or 5 minutes from the club. We goes to my grandmother's house, and one of my friends was like, yo, put this up. He had some drugs on her. I took the drugs and ran out where my dog was at. I looked on the dog house and my gun was gone. And I was like, okay, well, who got my gun? So I called my brother, and he didn't have it, but he had it, but he claimed he didn't have it until later on. Then he called me back. Yeah, I got it. So I went across the street and asked the guy that was at the club with us, but he was in another car. And I asked him, did he have his gun there? And he was like, oh no, my gun ain't here. And I asked him who was shooting us. Then the guy with me said, oh, tell him to hold his scale to the mom. I was like, man, we argued about it. And we went back to the club. When we got back to the club, everyone was gone, including my car. So I was like, where's my car? So one of the guys on the truck with us, he was like, well, look, follow me. We went around the corner, and my car was there. This guy that I knew was in my car, listened to the radio, so he thought something happened to me. So at the time, I let one of my friends drive the car, because I was intoxicated. So, he was swerving. I was like, nah, tell him to. I called him. I said, look, park my car. You can't drive my car. And he got mad. He drove my car to my grandmother's house and parked in the yard. So we asked him. He was like, look, take me back by the club again to get my truck, because his truck was really like he couldn't drive it. He was hot by the police. Everywhere he went, they pulled him, because he don't have a driver's license. We was like, nah, just ride with us. We take him back to get his truck, and we follow him out, and he leaves. So on the way after we leave, this girl called me. She was like, Derrick, there was a shooting. This guy got shot. I'm like, who got shot? And she was like, this guy named, Amp Ski got shot. And I'm like, Amp Ski? I don't know him. She said, you probably know his brother. She called his brother name. And I was like, I went to school with him. I know him. And I was like, who was shooting? But I feel like they were shooting at me too. And she was like, well, I don't know, Derrick. They tried to say that you were shooting too. And I was like, what? I was like, nah, that ain't true. So I went on home, to my wife's house. And I woke up the next morning, I have like 30 messages. And I checked the messages, and I'm like, whoa, who's all these people? So, the first message was the girl that called me that night. She was crying. She was like, they both dead. So I'm like, who's dead? And she says, Amsky and Donnerberg, they're dead. And I'm like, so, Amsky, she had told me he got shot. So I figured, like, okay, he might have died from the gunshot. But Donnerberg, he was the guy that walked up when the fight started, and they was like, what's going on up there? He was the guy that walked with me up to the initial fight. So I'm like, okay, he got killed in a car accident or something? She was like, no, Derrick, he got shot. I said, shot where at? Because he walked up to the fight with me last night. He's like, he got shot at the club. So I'm like, man, who did all that? Who was shooting? She was like, Derrick, they said you killed both of those guys. So I was like, no, that's not true. I ain't worried about it. So next thing I know, I look at the news, and my picture is on the news. They're looking for me for murders. So I left town for that day, and here I collected all the money the guys owed me, and I collect my money, and I called a lawyer. I had one of my friends called a lawyer. We drove to the lawyer house the next day, and it kind of shocked me because I never dealt with this lawyer. He told me to come to his house. His wife opened the door with her baby in her hand, and I'm on her for double homicide. So I'm like, yo, this don't seem right. And she escorted me through the house, and me and him had a talk, and he asked me what happened. I told him what had happened, and then he said, no, he escorted me to the jail, and I've been incarcerated ever since.
So, Derrick, you willingly turned yourself in to the authorities, right?
Yes, sir.
You never went on the run?
No, sir. I left for a day, so I collect my money, and once I collect my money, drove, I took my one of my friends took the money to my wife, and I met the lawyer there. My wife gave the lawyer money, for to start representing me.
Okay. Did the lawyer do anything with your case? Did he represent you after you first met him and you turned yourself in? Did he do anything with your case?
Yes, he represented me, but he sold me out. It was like, 2 days later, okay, someone wrote a statement, how my name came in the initial shooting from the start. 2 girls went to the hospital, and they run around saying, back then they had something like I was the type of person, I had to have all types of gadgets, like electronic gadgets. At the time, they came out with this flip phone back then, and it was called a spaceship phone. It had silver little gadgets on it. It was shaped like a spaceship kind of, and when it light up, like a little spaceship. The guys was running around saying, who did it? And this girl was like, it looked like Derrick was walking up there with something silver in his hand. So he was like, yeah, he did that. And next thing I know, this guy was facing 2 counts of statutory rape and a shooting charge. And he became the state's main witness in my case. And next thing I know, a statement pop out saying, this guy saying, Derrick was the one that did it. And then he made up this big story saying I walked past him with the gun, how he know I had the gun. He bumped me with the gun in my hand, and he's saying that's how he know I had a gun. But who's going to bump into somebody with a gun in their hand, And he knew I had a gun before he bumped into me, So then
they pretty much fabricated this story because of who you were in the streets and who they knew you to be. They used your street credibility to pretty much paint a picture of you to do something so heinous because they wanted to be pretty much part of a situation.
Yes, but it wasn't. It was more to it than that. When I was young, I was falsely accused of a rape charge, and I went to court at 16 years old without a hired lawyer, with a court-appointed lawyer, and I showed him that I went around and got the evidence myself, and gave it to the lawyer and forced him to present it, and I was found not guilty, and I beat this DA. I beat the DA at 16 years old by myself, basically. And ever since then, he had this agenda. It was the same deal.
County are we in now?
I was in Edgecombe County then. This is by Rocky Mount, North Carolina, Tabor, North Carolina.
Okay. So you're dealing with the same DA from when you were 16 in Edgecombe County. Just so our viewers can understand this, DA has been after you since you were 16 years old because you were wrongfully accused of a crime that you done the due diligence and proved your innocence. So
it really wasn't about the crime. It was about a young 16-year-old black male beat him at trial, and it didn't even make it to trial. Once I had my lawyer present the evidence that was presented to him, he was like, the judge looked at the jurors were shaking their head, and he said, well, look, I recommend this case to be dismissed. Who put you up to this? She pointed at her lawyer, at her mother, and the DA, and it was dismissed. I walked out of the courtroom. But there's more to my case than that. Me and one of my friends was in his cousin's yard one day. Next thing I know, I said, man, the detectives are pulling up. and it was a black detective. He pulled up in the yard, named Detective Cofield. And I said, what the world? He was like, look, she don't want y'all in her yard. So I was like, well, look, you don't have to tell me twice. I left walking. So somehow a week later, the same detective shows up again at the same trailer. So this time I had my car pulled up in the yard. And he say, didn't I tell y'all she didn't want y'all in her yard? At the time, I didn't have a driver's license. So I was like, well, look, I just left walking, left my car in the yard. So he was like, I catch you in his yard again, I'm going to lock you up. So the same day, I'm coming through the trailer park, and and the woman that owned the trailer, she stopped my car. And she said, Derrick, the Joe Cofield, she called him Joe. Did Joe tell y'all kick y'all out of my yard? And I was like, yes. I said, what that was all about? She said, that's my baby daddy. He's mad because I put him up for child support. So I was like, oh, man, he really going to try to get me now. That's what I told her. So I drove off. He pulled me like 2 times before the actual club shooting happened, and he become one of the main detectives on my case that questioned some of the witnesses.
Wait, this girl's baby daddy is the detective?
Yes.
Was he the detective in both cases?
Yeah, no, he was detective in my case.
Okay, just the double homicide.
Yes.
Okay.
He became the detective on the double homicide. And
what relation did you have to this young lady, this woman that you were in her yard? What relation did you have to her? I mean, were you her friend? Were you her boyfriend? Or you just somebody that socialized with her that would make him, want to target you?
Yeah, I didn't have a relationship with her for us. Like, we was just from the same place. But she tried to be more than a friend to me. But the guy that I was with in her yard is her first cousin. But she had tried to make advances towards me. But we never had no form of, interaction.
With that being said, that could make the detective have ill will towards you, right?
Right. He had never pulled me over. He had never stopped my car. I got pulled over 2 times before he became detectives on my case. What detectives pull people over for driving with no license? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He started pulling me over for stuff. There's always a police or a sheriff that pull you over for driving no license. Detectives don't do that. Not homicide detectives.
Okay.
Did he give you a ticket?
Yes, he gave me a ticket. He gave me a ticket the first time. The second time he pulled me over, I had got my driver license. So they let me go. When I go to court, I walk in the courtroom and I'm about to be tried. And when I walk in the courtroom, I see a gun, a holster, and a box of bullets that I've never seen in my life. So I say, what is all of that right there? What is all of that? Because I asked him for a probable cause hearing. My lawyer told me that the DA don't like those, and we never had a probable cause hearing on a double homicide.
Derrick, how can you not have a probable cause on a double homicide? You got to have probable cause to charge me, to bring the charges before the grand jury. I mean, the only way that the grand jury can hear and indict you on these charges is you got to find probable cause to say that I was the perpetrator of the crime, even charge me with this. How can this happen?
Right. I don't know. I was indicted on the actual murders, but I never had a probable cause hearing. Not probable cause, evidentiary hearing. Like for evidence they had at the trial, like the evidence they bring to the trial, I never had a hearing for it.
Yes.
The probable cause. That's a probable cause.
But that's what I'm saying, my friend. How can you have this and you probable cause? The evidence that's presented gives probable cause for someone to be indicted for a crime. If you don't have sufficient evidence to support the charges that's being brought against you, you are being denied your due process, the 5th and 14th Amendment. Your lawyer misrepresented you.
Right. And so I asked him, I said, what is all of this? What is all of this stuff? And he told me, this is that's the stuff that they found here and there and here and there. So kind of find out the gun. Okay, there was another statement that was written, and they was like, it said it wasn't Derrick Harper that walked up with a gun. It was Robert Andrews that walked up with a gun. So the next day, Robert Andrews goes to the next town over and get in a shootout with these same guys. One of the state witnesses involved in my case, and another guy. So after Robert Andrews, and they found the same kind of shells that they found at the murder scene, and Robert Andrews goes and hire my trial lawyers to represent him on the shooting case, and he was a suspect in my case.
Whoa.
Yes.
So your lawyer had a reason to sell you out to save his other client.
Right. And I went on the appeal on this for conflict of interest. The lawyer admitted everything. He said at the time he didn't see it as a conflict. By reading the MAR that I filed, the conflict is plain and clear. And they turned me down. Courts marked it out and said, okay. They took off where he admitted that he see the conflict. They said, Mr. Moore said that he didn't see a conflict. But the law states whether he see a conflict or not, at the beginning, end, or middle, it's still a conflict.
Yeah, because the law also states a criminal defendant is entitled to defense counsel whose undivided loyalty lies with his client. And, if he's representing conflict and interests in successive representation cases, former client has become an adverse witness against somebody else. So whether this guy was a witness against you or whether he was a suspect or potential suspect in your crime, when your lawyer took on his case while representing you, he committed a conflict of interest, and there is no way that he can give you proper and meaningful representation without affecting one case or the other case.
Yes, that's true. And my appeal lawyer asked him, did you send anybody out to question the suspect? He said, I couldn't because I was representing him. It would have went against my client-attorney privilege. Then he said, okay, did you see his gun? The detectives went to him and said, well, look, we need a gun to clear you up. He sent them to his house and said his family met him on the porch with a gun and a box of bullets. They get there and check and say, oh, you good. They didn't search the house, didn't do nothing, and just left, took the gun and left, and just charged me. So they asked him.
Wow.
During the appeal process, they asked the lawyer, did you send his gun to the SBI lab to get checked to make sure that the state didn't overlook anything? He said, I couldn't, because if that gun would have came back as a murder weapon, then I could have lost my law license because of my client-attorney privilege. He says that on the stand, and the judge still turned me down. Yes.
So you're saying now this is law for everybody that don't know law. That's under the sound of my voice. I want you to listen to this. In Curley versus Sullivan, this is a United States case, and it states the Supreme Court ruled that a defendant can demonstrate Sixth Amendment violations by showing that counsel was actively representing conflict in interest, and two, the conflict had an adverse effect on specific aspects of counsel's performance. So with that being said, if you can show that he was representing you and him in two different cases that would have affected his performance to represent you properly, that's in demonstrating conflict. And then the conflict adversely affected your case and the attorney's performance because he openly said in court that if he would have done this, he would have lost his license to practice. He would have violated the state bar. He would have been in violation of ethical performance. And the courts know this, and they did not overturn your case and remand your case for new trial.
Yeah. Then they said they turned me down, saying that the shooting that happened the day after the murders didn't have anything to do with the club shooting. That's what they said in court. That's why they said they denied me. But which is not true.
Would have done a ballistics test on the firearm. If your lawyer sends the gun to the SBI lab to do a ballistics on the firearm, and this firearm would have come back gun marks on the bullets the same as the bullets that come from the crime scene, and the shooting scene, the murder scene and the shooting scene, that would have placed culpability on the guy that your lawyer is protecting. And it would have exonerated you of this crime. But he failed to do that. So his loyalty to you was compromised to save this person. And he violated the state bar's ethical code, man. He sold you out to save somebody else.
Right. That's not all. They found that the shells that they found at the scene did not match. They found 2 unshot 380 shells that had been popped out of the gun, meaning they still had the markings on the shells. They found 2 380 shot shells and an unshot 22 shell. Okay, they took all they didn't take the 22 shell to the lab to see do the markers match anything else, but they took the 380 shells, the 4 380, 2 unshot ones and 2 shot ones. Okay, but the other shot shell did not match the other 3. Y'all get what I'm saying here?
So you're saying
like 2 of the shot, you got 2 shot shells and you got 2 unshot shells. But the 2 unshot shells was kicked out of a gun. You could tell they got the markings on the side that was kicked out of a gun. The 2 unshot shells and one of the shot shells on the microscopic details match, but the other shot shell on the microscopic detail doesn't match either of the 3. So that makes it was 2 guns, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If two shot shells don't match, I mean there was 2 guns.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right?
And your lawyer could have done an investigation and brought it up in trial and showed that there was a possibility of more than one shooter. And each man could have been murdered by different people.
Right, but he brought it up in trial, and the ballistic expert said that it could have. But what he explained to the jury was, now this is true. I've done a research, and this is true facts. If you shoot a gun for a long period of time, years or months back, consecutively, the grooves change on not on the back, the grooves change on the gun. But you cannot shoot a gun back to back, pow, pick the bullets up, take them to the lab, and they have not one scratch that would say that they came from the same gun. So he gave the jurors false information, saying that they could have, but he said they could have because they're the same caliber, which is untrue. You get what I'm saying? He said, okay, they came from the same kind of gun, but the marking states that they didn't come from the same gun. The jurors he didn't break that down to the jurors enough for them to understand what he was particularly saying. Yeah.
He didn't fully develop his argument, so therefore he manipulated the mind of the common man. Because if you don't explain that the gun marks, the markings of a firearm changes over a pattern of time by utilizing the gun from wear and tear, the markings change. And that the firing pin can be hit in center. That gun might hit the firing pin in center on one bullet, but on the next bullet, it might hit it to the right or the left due to mechanisms inside the gun loosening up and the firing pin moving right or left. Everything's not as cohesive and in line as it was when it was brand new.
Was the gun the gun that was in evidence, was it even your gun?
No, they didn't have a gun even related to me. The gun that was in evidence came from the guy that got in the shootout the following day.
Okay, because you'd said earlier you had a gun that was under the doghouse, but your brother had got it. That wasn't this gun, right?
The gun that was on the doghouse was a Calico, 9mm bullets. And there was 380 bullets found at the scene.
But so they never did any kind of testing to determine if your fingerprints or anything was even on this gun?
No, that particular gun didn't have anything to do with me. They just had it in evidence. They said they was using it for demonstrative evidence.
What?
So when a detective get on stand and start talking for demonstrative purposes, when the detective got on the stand, they handed him a gun to use it to demonstrate with.
They can do that?
That's just the plant. That ideal into the juror's head. They can do it because my lawyer didn't object to it. And he didn't object to it.
That's right.
The gun belonged to one of his clients.
Wow.
There you go. And that's a line of ineffective assistance of counsel. For those that's listening that don't understand, our viewers, this is considered 404 and 4043B. These rules are evidence rules. And what the lawyer's supposed to have done, if he would have been a competent lawyer that was properly representing Derrick, he would have filed a motion to dismiss these evidence because these evidence was not pertinent to the crime. This gun had no connection to Derrick because Derrick did not otherwise provide the authorities with this gun, nor was it recovered from his home or his vehicle or any part or person that's connected with Derrick. So Derrick's lawyer gave him ineffective assistance of counsel and sold him out and allowed these evidence to be entered into trial, and they should have been impermissible. Because if your lawyer fails to object at any given point in a trial, if any type of evidence is introduced and your lawyer does not give a formal objection to these evidence is considered permissible and accepted by your lawyer. Your lawyer is your representative. He is your mouthpiece for all those that's listening. And if your lawyer tells you, I got this, and you're ignorant to the law, which ignorance of the law is no excuse because they don't understand that, your lawyer sells you out and does not object, that is allowed for the jury to hear. And in the jury's mind, that's your gun. Evidence belonged to you, and you were found with these. So therefore, they can be permissible in court.
Right.
Well, Derrick, what have you been doing to fight your case?
Man, in 21 years, I've hired several lawyers. I've lost over $70,000 hiring lawyers. And I hired a lawyer. I had a lawyer from Durham named Mark Elwoods. I've hired a lawyer named Amos Tyndale. Now, don't get me wrong. They fought the case tooth and nail, but the Superior Court turned it down, and I think they did a great job at what they did. The Superior Court turned it down. They filed it to the Court of Appeals, and the Court of Appeals agreed with them. And 9 times out of 10, that's what happens most of the time. If the Superior Court turns it down, the appeals court's is going to agree with them. And that's not all that happened. I had witnesses in my case that testified on me. And one of the guys, Dontavius Thickpen, he got on the stand, and and when he was telling the story, he kept telling the DA, "Look, man, I didn't see that. I really didn't." So the DA started screaming, "What did you see?" And he got 3 guys that have mental disorders. Because, I know for a fact that they have mental disorders. So the guy, he was like, I seen him do it. He was like, how you see him do it? So he started telling this story of how he seen what happened. And he said that the guy was fighting. I ran up and shot in the air. One of the guys was begging for his life, and I shot this guy. My lawyer said, after my lawyer cross-examined him, he said, but look, there's a problem. You said Derrick shot in the air. Then the guy begging back and saying, please don't shoot me. Derrick shot him. He said, are you aware that 2 people got shot that night? And they said there was only 2 shots that was fired. So how could he have shot in the air? I could shot in the air and then shot this guy. He said, man, I can't do this. I can't do this. This is in my transcript. He said, I can't do this. He said, do what? He said, that detective right there, he pointed to the detective that thought I was messing with his baby mother, that detective right there promised me he'll drop my pending drug charges if I write a statement and say I seen Derrick do it. But he said, my lawyer said, so you lied. The DA said, strike the word lie. He said, so you didn't tell the truth. He said, they lied to me. They told me they were going to drop my pending drug charge. I done been in prison now. I have no reason to lie for y'all. My lawyer asked for a dismissal. The judge said, we're going to let the DA decide. The DA said, well, we're going to leave it up to the jurors, let the jury decide on them. I was found guilty. Whoa. Yeah.
In your appeals process, did you ever file a writ of habeas corpus with federal courts?
My lawyer filed. I think he filed one with the Supreme Court. That's federal, correct?
Well, the Supreme Court of North Carolina, you can file one there, and then once you reach that level, you can also file one at the federal level in the United States federal courts, which you're
Yeah.
from 252 Rocky Mount, so yours will be in the Eastern District.
Ninth District. Yeah, East District. Well, I don't think.
Well,
I think he did file it. Yeah, he did file it. He filed a habeas corpus, and they turned it down.
Uh-huh.
He turned it with my first appeal. He turned it down. My second appeal, no. Yeah.
Well, Derrick, you explained to us. You explained to us that you have some newly discovered evidence, recanted testimony from guys that testified in your trial. Is that correct?
Two of the guys in my case, it was 4 guys that testified. One of the guys in my case admitted that he didn't tell the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the DA promised him. He said in his recantation, he said the DA told him and the rest of the guys, they was trying to tell him like, yo, what we said wasn't the truth. We just want to, tell the truth. What happened? We didn't see Derrick do this. Or we didn't see Derrick shooting. We didn't see Derrick with a gun. And he was like, look, if you don't tell what you initially said in those statements, Derrick is going to get out and kill all of y'all. So the other 2 guys are scared to come forward. They thinking that I'm really going to do something to them. And that's not me. I never had a shooting charge or none of that until this right here. So and then the other guy, he was young and he was just trying to get he from the same neighborhood the guy was killed, and he was just trying to get along, trying to be with them, be around them, to be accepted by them. So he just wrote a statement and said that he seen me do something that I didn't do. Another affidavit came forth. Remember, I explained to you all earlier that they found a holster and a box of bullets that was brought to my trial. And the first guy that admitted that he lied, they found it in his cousin's house. The guy that I wrote, the guy that I asked who was shooting at us and all of that I gave the scale to. So he was like, when they found the bullets and holster in his house, he disappeared. He called a trafficking charge. He disappeared for 7 years, got his charges dismissed. But before he caught the trafficking charge, he wrote a statement to the detective and my private investigator saying, look, the bullets and the holster that was found in my house had nothing to do with Derrick. Derrick did not give me a gun because the guy that somebody initially said that I gave him a gun. Derrick did not give me a gun. I'm willing to take a lie to take the test today. I'm willing to take a lie to take the test today to prove that Derrick did not give me a gun. They didn't give him a lie to take the test. The detective took the statement. My lawyer took my private investigator took a statement from him also before he disappeared for those 7 years. So during my trial, when I'm going to trial, the DA know that I did not get this man a gun because of this statement. But the DA told the jurors, Derrick gave this man a gun, and this man got rid of Derrick's gun. No, the DA said Derrick killed these guys, and Derrick gave this man a gun. This man got rid of Derrick's gun, and we found Derrick's holster and his box of bullets in this man's house. That's what the DA said. So when this guy came back, he wrote an affidavit, and he stated, Derrick never gave me a gun. I wrote this to the detectives. I wrote this to Derrick's lawyer. Today, 19 years later, I'm willing to take a lie detector test to prove that Derrick never gave me a gun, and the bullets and the holster that was found in my house did not belong to Derrick. And there was another recantation. A guy, remember, I jumped in the guy's truck, and he the one took off to take me to get my gun.
Yes.
He showed up to court. He showed up to court to testify to that. When he showed up to court to testify that, he stayed in court for 3 days. After 3 days, the sheriff called him outside the courtroom and said it was time for him to testify. The sheriff called him outside the courtroom and said, "Look, you have a warrant." And he said, "I don't have a warrant. I know I don't have a warrant." And they took him to the magistrate office and held him for 2 to 3 hours. When he got back to testify for me, I had been found guilty.
Wow. So this is act coercion of witnesses, intimidation of witnesses, and tampering with witnesses. Affidavits written by witnesses that would have testified in your trial and help exonerate you of these crimes and prove that show your innocence. 2 years later, these people are still saying, hey, if I would have been allowed to testify in that trial, if the law enforcement, the DA, and the detectives would not have prevented me from testifying, I would have told the truth. And these are newly discovered evidence, am I right? This is stuff that you just finding out about now.
Yes, that is correct. And my last lawyer,
Okay.
he filed this stuff. I hired a lawyer, Robert Harris, out of Durham. I recommend nobody ever hire this lawyer right here.
Why
This
is
lawyer came to see me one time, and he came to see me one time after I paid him his money, and I paid him $10,000, and he came to see me, and he wrote me one letter. He wrote me the draft to the MER he wanted to file. I said, I like what you got filed here. I said, but could you add this? I haven't heard from the lawyer since. All I know, he filed something, and I lost. So I'm asking, let me see what you filed. Could you come see me? Before he filed, I didn't even know he had filed it. The man refused to come see me. Refused to answer the phone. Every time we answer the phone, my people call over 100 times. If you look up this man's review on Google, this man's review on the internet or whatever, you will see that this man has no stars. Everybody he dealt with, he's the worst lawyer I ever seen in my life. And do you know that this man is one of the senior commissioners on the TARP claim also?
Wow.
Yes. And I told this man, I said, look, man, if you don't give me back my money, because I kept asking for a copy of what he filed, and I still haven't seen it. I still haven't got my copy. And I said, if you don't give me my paperwork, I'm going to report you to the Bar Association. So I wrote and I filed a complaint with the Bar Association. They claimed they did a review, and he lied to them and told them that he came to see me several times, that he sent me several letters. And I wrote them, I said, look, this man is plainly lying to you all, and you all are believing this, and I'm asking you, I'm begging you to please check the prisons, and they will prove to you all that this man came to see me one time in 2 years and sent me one letter in 2 years. He's lying to you all, and they believe him, and they closed the case out.
Well, Derrick, I wrote this show, you're showing our viewers, and it's good that you're telling us about this guy, because you're also telling us about your trial lawyer. You're telling us about this lawyer. So it shows that our viewers, we can actually get a clairvoyant view of how lawyers will sell you out. They'll barter your life away. They have no integrity. Some of them have no integrity, and they will barter your life. And I mean, it doesn't just happen to black people. It doesn't just happen to white people. It doesn't happen to Indian people. It happens to all people that go in that courtroom and that's ignorant to the law and has no understanding. And
that's true.
You placed your life in these people's hands. You trusted these people, paid somebody thinking that they were going to give you proper representation. And this is something for our people need to understand, because when you're given a court-appointed lawyer, they're representing you for free, and you're trusting that court-appointed lawyer to represent you. Justice Derrick paid someone to represent him, and they go in there, whether they're paid or whether they're court-appointed, and they're bartering our lives, or bartering our mothers, our fathers, our brothers, our sisters' lives away. And then we're stuck in prison litigating pro se, or trying to get somebody else to come in and give us justice, because justice is not being served. We've been denied justice. And what you've told us today is very important, my brother. The fact that, so much coercion, so much evil prevailed in the courtroom to get you in prison for a double homicide, and you have to live with this every day of your life, knowing that you didn't commit these crimes, but you're sitting in prison with a life sentence.
Right. What's even worse is one of my sons was murdered October the 5th last year. And they refused to even let me go to his funeral. They told me that, they told me I was in a program called the RDU program, and I was done with the program.
Yes, I've been there.
But they said because you're still in this program, because you're still here, you would not be allowed to go to his funeral. But they let me see him on the screen. I only got to see my son on a screen, like a Zoom before he was buried.
Mm.
So that's the worst feeling in the world, to lose someone.
I can't
I've
even
lost
imagine.
my grandmothers. I've lost one of my girlfriend that was there for me through all of this. She died of she was born with liver disease. She passed away. I lost a lot of family members. And it's a lot of things that you go through. You fight your innocence at the same time. You're trying to stay sane because you're trying to be level-headed of what's going on over here. Also.
Yeah.
So what I did, I started a petition on change.org. It's Derrick Harper change.org, where I have and they can read on everything that was going on in my case, put it inside the petition, so they can go and read everything that we just talked about today.
Okay, and I'll put that link down in the description for our viewers to have easy access to.
All right.
So you told us with this petition, you need 7,500 signatures. And right now, you said like 7,000 or maybe a little more. And, for the people that's listening to our podcast, the people that follows us, y'all have heard Derrick's story. Y'all see the struggle this man's been through to do 21 years in prison. And, we asked that if you're moved, assist Derrick to go up there and sign your name to his petition for him to go before the governor, get some reprieve, get some relief, get his sentence commuted to something that allow him to walk out of prison.
Seconds remaining.
We will also have that link in the description to the petition so that you can easily access it and sign it for Derrick to help him.
All right. I thank you very much.
So while you've been incarcerated and had all this on your mind, I can't even imagine being incarcerated for something that I didn't do and be fighting this. I know you've spent a lot of your time fighting this conviction. And what else have you been doing in your spare time?
To take my mind away from things, I've written over 14 books. I have 6 published. I started my own publishing company from prison. A lot of doors was closed in my face, so I started my own publishing company. That was the only way to, try to make ends meet and help me with my attorney fees.
Okay.
So I have 6 books on Amazon right now. Books by Derrick Harper. And I write, things people been through. I read, I write erotica books. I write spiritual books. I write everything. Anything you want to read, you probably can find it.
Okay.
I got 6 books. One called Double L versus the Cartel. Double L versus the Cartel 2. The Streets Don't Love Me. Apple Tree. Man of God. Tried and True. You can find all of them on. You can find.
All right, and we'll put all the links to the books in the descriptions as well, so that way everybody can help out in signing your petition and buying a book, reading it to help with your legal fees.
Thank you.